Okay, let's get into this. Ever feel like life is a bit like walking a financial tightrope?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Most days, things are fine,
Hmm.
maybe even really good. But then, boom, something unexpected hits.
Always something, isn't it?
A car repair that costs way more than you budgeted, or a surprise medical bill, or worst case, maybe even losing a job.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly that tightrope feels super wobbly, you're looking down, and the fall could mean landing in some nasty high-interest debt.
Right. And it completely throws your goals off track. It's that feeling of vulnerability, like
Yeah.
one bad break could just unravel everything.
Exactly. Life's just unpredictable sometimes, and those financial shocks, they can be really devastating if you're not ready.
But what if you could build a safety net right under that tightrope?
Okay, I like that. A specific tool designed just for those shocks.
Precisely. A tool to keep you from crashing down.
So that's what we're diving into today.
Yep. That's the mission for this deep dive. We've got some great source material here, stuff from NerdWallet Canada, Fidelity, guides on financial safety nets,
Good stuff.
and we're going to unpack what this tool actually is,
Hmm.
why it's so crucial, like non-negotiable,
Okay.
how much you should aim for, where you should keep it the smart places anyway,
Right.
and maybe the most practical part, a step-by-step plan so you can actually build your own.
All right, let's do it. So what is this thing? What are we actually talking about, and why does it matter so much?
We're talking about the emergency fund. The sources all agree. It's a specific pot of savings, totally separate from your day-to-day money or your retirement accounts.
Okay, separate is key.
Absolutely. It's only for unexpected, unavoidable expenses, things you absolutely have to pay for and didn't see coming.
Yeah.
You only touch it in, well, pretty desperate circumstances.
And that distinction is really important, isn't it? It's not for the planned stuff.
Exactly. Not for the vacation you're saving for or that new gadget you want.
Or even a down payment on a house.
Nope. Not even for predictable, but maybe irregular. Costs like, holiday gifts or maybe a non-urgent medical thing you can budget for over time.
Gotcha. Those need their own savings goals. This is purely for the surprises.
The big, potentially destabilizing surprises. The sources list things like, obviously, job loss,
Yeah.
a serious accident or illness that messes with your income or brings huge bills,
Okay.
a natural disaster, especially if you find out your insurance doesn't quite cover everything,
Oof.
or those big necessary home or car repairs that just pop up out of nowhere, stuff you just can't ignore.
Okay, so it's for the real gut punches. Why is having this specific fund so critical? What does it actually do for you?
Well, the why is huge. First off, think of it as your debt shield.
Debt shield. I like that.
Because what happens if you don't have cash ready for an emergency?
Uh-oh. Credit cards? Loans?
Exactly. Usually high-interest credit cards or maybe expensive personal loans. And that debt just eats away at your finances, right? The interest makes the original emergency cost way more in the end.
Yeah, it's like getting hit twice. You pay for the emergency, then you pay interest on top. Sometimes a lot of interest.
Precisely. And there's a stat in the sources, it's pretty sobering actually, over 35% of Americans couldn't handle an unexpected $400 expense without reaching for credit.
Wow, only $400.
Yeah. And think about it. You mentioned the interest paying maybe 22% more on that $400 because it went on a high-interest card.
That snowballs fast.
That's exactly what the emergency fund stops.
Yeah.
It stops that snowball cold.
Okay, so it prevents that debt trap. $400 really highlights how tight things can be for people. What else? What other benefits does this safety net give you?
Something almost invaluable. Peace of mind.
Okay,
Especially if you face something like a job loss. That's incredibly stressful.
totally.
But knowing you have enough cash set aside to cover your essential bills for, say, several months, that gives you breathing room.
Right, you're not immediately panicking about next month's rent.
Exactly. You don't have to jump at the very first, maybe lowball job offer just out of desperation. You can take a beat, look for something that's actually a good fit, negotiate properly.
That makes sense. It gives you back some control in a chaotic situation.
It really does. That mental space is huge. And there's one more big one. It protects your investments.
How so?
Well, if you don't have emergency cash
Yep.
and something big comes up, where might you get the money?
Uh-oh. Selling stocks, your ETFs.
Bingo. And when do emergencies often seem to hit? Sometimes when the economy's down or your personal situation is shaky, which might also mean the market is down.
Right, the worst possible time to sell.
You end up locking in losses you might have avoided if you could just hold on. The emergency fund means you don't have to sabotage your long-term plans to cover a short-term fire.
Okay, this is making a lot of sense. It's a shield against debt, gives you breathing room and peace of mind, and protects your future investments. Sold. Now, the $1,000,000 question, or maybe the $10,000 question. How much actually needs to be in this fund?
Huh. Yeah, the big number question. The standard advice, and it's pretty consistent across the sources, is aiming for 3 to 6 months worth of essential living expenses.
3 to 6 months. Okay, that can sound like a lot. Let's break down essential living expenses. What exactly are we counting here?
We're talking bare bones. What do you absolutely need to keep the lights on and a roof over your head?
Okay. Rent or mortgage payment?
Definitely. Utilities, electricity, water, heat, basic groceries, nothing fancy.
Right.
Transportation costs like gas or public transit to get to work or essential places. Insurance premiums, health, car, home, renters.
Can't let those lapse.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Minimum payments on existing debts like student loans or car payments. You have to keep those current.
Okay.
And then essential healthcare costs, maybe some unavoidable childcare or tuition, if that applies. Basically the must pays.
So what's not essential then? What gets cut in emergency mode?
Pretty much everything else that's discretionary. Eating out, gone. Entertainment, movies, concerts, paused. Gym memberships, most subscription services you can live without, cut them.
Even that streaming service I love.
If it's not truly essential for survival or work, yeah, probably. Vacations, impulse shopping, all that goes on hold. The goal is a really lean budget just for survival.
Focus on needs, not wants. Got it. But still, 3 to 6 months of even those bare bones costs, that can feel overwhelming to build up.
Oh, for sure. The sources acknowledge that. It takes time, and that's okay. Patience is key.
So you don't have to get there overnight.
Not at all. And actually, one really helpful tip that came up is to start with a smaller, more achievable goal first. Like, aim for $1,000.
Just $1,000 to start.
Yeah. Just getting that first $1,000 saved provides a significant buffer against smaller bumps in the road. A minor car repair, a leaky pipe.
Right. It stops those little things from becoming credit card debt.
Exactly. And it gives you a psychological win. You've started, you've got something. Then from there, you keep building systematically to the full 3 to 6 months.
That $1,000 goal makes it feel way less daunting.
Okay. Are there times when someone might actually need more than 6 months saved?
Yes, definitely. The sources point out several situations where a bigger cushion makes sense. Job stability is a big factor.
Like if your income is unpredictable.
Right. If you're self-employed, rely heavily on commissions, work in an industry known for cycles of hiring and layoffs, it might take you longer to find stable income again.
Okay, that makes sense. More risk needs more buffer.
Exactly. Also, consider how many people depend on your income. More dependents, potentially higher need.
Single income versus dual income households too, I guess.
Yep. A single income household often has less flexibility if that income disappears. Also, significant health issues in the family can mean higher potential costs or income interruptions.
What else?
Owning an older home that might need major repairs unexpectedly, or having an older, less reliable car.
Things likely to cost you money. Right. And if you're maybe retired or getting close, living on a fixed income, having a larger buffer can provide extra security. Some also suggest padding it if you anticipate a major economic downturn.
So it's really personal. You need to assess your own risks.
Absolutely. The 3-6 months is a guideline, not a rigid rule.
Okay, so let's make it concrete. If someone calculates their essential monthly expenses are, say, $2,500,
Okay.
then their target range for this fund, their fortress, would be $7,500 on the low end up to $15,000.
Exactly. Somewhere in that $7,500 to $15,000 range would be their goal, depending on those personal risk factors we just talked about.
Thinking of it as a fortress really drives home the point. It's security.
It is. It's building financial security brick by brick.
Okay, so you figured out your target number. Now, where do you actually keep this money? It needs to be safe, but you also need to grab it fast if disaster strikes.
That's the crucial balance, and the sources are really clear. The top priorities here are safety and accessibility.
Not growth.
Definitely not growth. Maximizing returns is not the goal for this money. This isn't an investment. It's insurance. You need to know the money will be there, the full amount, when you need it, without worrying if its value dropped.
Okay, safety first, easy access second. So where do the sources recommend putting it?
Top of the list, almost universally, are high-yield savings accounts, HYSAs.
Okay, why those?
Well, they typically offer much better interest rates than your standard savings account at a big traditional bank. Right now, you might see rates like 4%, maybe even 5% or more.
That's not bad. Better than nothing.
It's a nice little bonus, helps offset inflation a tiny bit. But the main things are, they're FDIC insured in the U.S. meaning your money's protected up to $250,000 per depositor.
Super safe.
And they're very accessible. Usually you can link them to your checking account and transfer money online within, say, 1 to 3 business days. Quick enough for most emergencies.
Got it. Secure, earns a little interest, and you can get the cash reasonably fast. What else?
Money market accounts are often mentioned too. They're very similar to HYSAs.
How so?
They offer competitive interest rates, also FDIC insured. Sometimes they might even come with check writing privileges or a debit card, which could be handy.
Any downsides?
Sometimes they might require a higher minimum balance to open or to avoid fees compared to some HYSAs, so you just need to check the details.
Okay, HYSAs and money market accounts. Good options. I think one source mentions specific Canadian accounts.
Yeah, for listeners in Canada, the tax-free savings account, TFSA, was highlighted. You can hold savings there, the interest earned is tax-free, and crucially, the funds stay accessible.
Nice. Tax-free growth and access.
And guaranteed investment certificates, GICs, were also brought up, but with a really important warning.
Oh, what's the catch?
If you use a GIC for emergency funds, you have to make sure it's easily cashable or has a very, very short term. You absolutely cannot lock your emergency money away for like 2 years just to get a slightly higher interest rate.
Because the emergency could happen next week?
Exactly. Accessibility trumps chasing yield for this specific money. Low risk, easy access is the name of the game.
Accessibility is non-negotiable. Okay, so those are the good places. Where should you absolutely not park your emergency fund?
Oh, this is just as important. The sources are very emphatic here. Number 1, not in your regular checking account.
Why not? It's accessible there.
Too accessible.
Yeah.
It just gets mixed in with your everyday spending money. It's way too easy to accidentally dip into it for non-emergencies. It needs to be separate psychologically and physically.
Out of sight, out of mind,
Yeah.
until you need it. Okay, where else is bad?
Definitely not in the stock market or other volatile investments, stocks, ETFs, mutual funds.
Yeah.
Their value goes up and down.
Right, we covered that. Risk of selling low.
Exactly. You can need the money right when the market tanks, forcing you to sell at a loss. This money needs stability, not market roller coasters.
Keep it safe from market risk.
Hmm.
Got it. What about just cash stuffed under the mattress?
Also a bad idea. Avoid hiding physical cash.
Really? Why?
Well, first, it earns zero interest. It's actually losing value to inflation. Second, it's not insured like money in a bank.
FDIC protection, right.
Right. And it's vulnerable. Vulnerable to theft, fire, floods, you name it. Your emergency fund needs to be secure in a regulated financial institution.
Okay. Clear guidelines. HYSA or money market good, checking account, stocks, mattress bad. Makes sense. All right. We know what it is, why it's vital, how much to aim for, where to keep it. Now, the big one. How do we actually build this thing? Especially if that 3-6-month target feels miles away right now.
Yeah, the action plan. And the sources really emphasize it is achievable. Even if you start small, it's about building momentum. So step 1 is what we just talked about.
Yeah.
Do the math. Figure out your essential monthly expenses. Set your target range.
And maybe start with that $1,000 goal first.
Absolutely. That $1,000 goal is a fantastic first milestone. It makes it feel real and get you moving. Target locked.
Okay, target locked. What's next? How do we make the savings happen?
Treat it like a bill, a really important non-negotiable bill.
Like rent or the mortgage.
Exactly. Give saving for your emergency fund that same level of priority in your budget. It's fundamental to your financial health.
So make it a line item. Don't just hope there's money left over.
Precisely. And then the secret weapon, automation.
Set it, forget it.
Pretty much. Set up automatic transfers. Maybe have a portion of your paycheck direct deposited right into that separate HYSA.
Okay.
Or set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to your emergency fund savings account every payday, or maybe even weekly if that works better for you.
Takes the willpower out of it.
Completely. The less you have to think about actively doing it, the more likely it is to happen consistently, month after month.
Smart. What about finding extra money, like bonuses or tax refunds?
Yes. Commit to sending windfalls straight to the fund. Got a tax refund. Boom. Emergency fund. Work bonus.
Yeah.
Emergency fund. Even smaller things like credit card cashback rewards or maybe a cash gift.
Resist the urge to splurge.
For this phase, yes.
Yeah.
Funnel it directly to building that safety net. It seriously speeds things up.
What about raises?
Yeah.
When you get a pay increase?
Use raises strategically. Before that extra money just gets absorbed into your regular spending, lifestyle creep.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That happens fast.
Take a good chunk of that raise, maybe even all of it initially, and direct it straight to your emergency fund. You won't even miss money you weren't used to spending anyway.
That's clever. Get it working for your security before it vanishes. Any other ways to accelerate the savings?
Actively hunt for expenses to cut. Like really scrutinize your spending.
Go through the bank statements.
Yep. Look for subscriptions you forgot about or don't really use. Maybe cut back on how often you eat out or order takeout. Look for cheaper alternatives for things like cell phone plans or insurance.
Find those leaks in the budget.
Exactly. And then, crucially, take the money you save by cutting those things and actively transfer it to your emergency fund. Don't just let it disappear back into general spending.
Okay, redirect the savings.
And don't discount the small stuff. Use those Roundup apps if you like them, the ones that round up your purchases and save the change.
Every penny counts.
It really does add up over time. Or, yeah, literally collect your loose change in a jar and deposit it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got stuff lying around the house you don't need anymore,
Sell it.
have a yard sale, sell it online, put those earnings straight into the fund. It's all about finding ways, big and small, to feed the fund.
So it sounds like a mix of consistent, automated saving, being strategic with bigger windfalls, and actively finding ways to cut back and redirect.
That's the formula. Consistency and patience are really the key ingredients.
Yeah.
It's a marathon, maybe, not a sprint for most people.
Right.
And one last really important point from the sources. If you do have to use the fund, which is what it's for, remember, make refilling it a top priority once the crisis has passed.
Get back on track, rebuilding that fortress.
Diligently. Rebuild that safety net as soon as you possibly can.
Wow, okay. This has been super helpful, really breaking it down. So just to recap, this emergency fund, it's not just some vague financial idea, it's a concrete tool.
A dedicated pool of money.
Yeah, acting as your shield against debt, giving you that crucial peace of mind when things get rough.
And protecting your long-term investments and goals. It's foundational, really.
It really feels like the bedrock for everything else financially.
It truly is. And remember, even starting small, getting that first $1,000, and then just being consistent with automation, adding windfalls, cutting where you can, it all builds momentum. You can get to that 3 to 6 month goal.
It feels much more achievable, broken down like that. Takes commitment, but it's doable.
Absolutely. And you know, what's really interesting when you step back and think about it,
Yeah.
this safety net, this emergency fund, it does more than just protect you from the bad times.
Okay. How so?
Well, think about it. Having that financial security, that cushion, it doesn't just buffer you from downturns. It might actually empower you.
Empowered you how?
It could give you the confidence to take calculated risks you might otherwise avoid purely out of financial fear. Maybe start that side business. Go back to school. Negotiate harder for a raise or switch careers.
Huh. Because you know you have a fallback if things go sideways temporarily.
Exactly. Think about the freedom that breathing room provides. It's not just about surviving the storms. It might actually unlock new possibilities and allow you to make bolder choices in your life. That security can be incredibly liberating.